Many people across the globe have been reporting paranormal experiences that are beyond logical explanation. Scary encounters, disembodied sounds, and eerie figures lurking in the dark are just small examples of these frightening occurrences. On the social platform Reddit, several users are sharing their experiences with the paranormal. I'm going to share some of them here. But before I start, I'd appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, share and drop a comment below. This is the Ghostly Top 5 and here are 5 ghost stories on Reddit. Number 1. The Woods Beast. Posted by the Reddit user Doomerclaire. Quotes. I need to tell someone about this, and I thought this would be a good place for it. 7 years ago, my cat was found under an uprooted tree near my house, mangled. 5 years ago, I must have been having an episode. I have mental issues, schizophrenia for one, and I stumbled through the woods near my house alone at midnight or sometimes like that. I didn't have much with me. Just a flashlight and a rather large knife. I'm a strong believer in the paranormal. My whole family is. I remember saying to myself that I was going to find what killed my cat. That must have been why I went out. Anyhow, I went through the woods and found a dark patch. In this area, I stopped to rest and started hearing laughter. Not loud laughter, but more of a chuckle, coming from the darkest part. Thinking it was just my mind or a hunter I didn't notice entirely, I stayed put. Soon I vaguely saw the skull of a goat facing me, on the body of a human, or something of the like, black as the abyssal night. I shined my flashlight on it and it hid. I started running back and saw it in front of me, so I tried to cut at it with the knife, but it slashed my hand open and I dropped the knife. I made it into my house and bandaged the gash on my hand as best I could. I went into my office to sit and get calm, but looking outside the window I saw the creature, coaxing me to come out. I went into my bedroom and crammed myself into the closet, shut the door, and waited. An hour or so passed and the creature was gone. I called 911, and I eventually got medical attention for my hand and needed stitches. I told some people about what had happened and what I got back was a mix of different stories and a few people said there could have been a cult meeting on my property and that was one of the cultists. Quite a few people told me it was a wild animal and I thought I saw more than what was actually there. Most of what I had in response was in relation to a cryptid called the Wendigo, which is essentially a human crazed by cannibalism, but there's a bit more to it. I'm open to believe any of these and I'm also open to your suggestions. Whatever it is, I have nightmares about it sometimes, and it's not uncommon for me to have sleep paralysis. I think I see it sometimes, watching me from the woods, but I can't tell if it's real or just me. Number 2. Red Eyes. Posted by the Reddit user SunflowerChild28. Quotes. Not sure when was the first time I heard something paranormal or see stuff, but one night I'll never forget as long as I live. Couple years back, maybe 2015 I'm gonna say. I lived with my parents and I didn't have a bedroom. I slept in the living room. I was getting ready for bed as usual. Finally fell asleep, then all of a sudden I heard scratching and it also sounded as if someone was being dragged all through the living room. I got scared so I turned on the light. I had a weird feeling to look at the clock. I noticed it read 3:15 a.m. I sat there for another 10 minutes. I just thought it was my imagination or I had dreamed it. Finally went back to sleep only to wake up to the awfulest voice I had ever heard. It was calling my name over and over. It growled something made me look up the wall. I saw only the head and shoulders and torso of what looked to be a man. He was burned to a crisp. He had claws for fingers and red glowing eyes. He reached for me and I began to pray and closed my eyes as tight as I could get them. 10 seconds later I opened my eyes to find nothing was there. Ever since that night I wake up at 3:15 a.m. every night, never fails. But I'll never forget his growling voice or his burnt body, and those eyes haunt me still. This is absolutely true and something I'll never forget. Number 3. The Little Blue Boy. Posted by Reddit user honey_bones. Quotes. This happened back in 1998 when I was 12 years old. My mom and stepdad moved us into a very old two-store home in Southwick, Massachusetts. This place wasn't in the best shape, and upon moving in, we realized we had a fly infestation on our hands. The first thing my mind went was the scene from Amityville Horror with the priest and the flies. So yeah, I was not too thrilled to be there. We took care of the fly issue and settled into our home, where everything remained calm for a little while. I started hearing strange noises in the house, like bumps and bangs, but figured it was just because the house was old and creaky. Things became considerably creepier when I started hearing little footsteps running around the house at various times throughout the day. If I was alone, it would seem as if a child was playing in the upstairs bedrooms, running around, moving things and giggling. I brought this to my mom's attention, and she told me she had also heard the child playing upstairs when she was downstairs. Needless to say, I was spooked. One night I woke up around 12 a.m. to use the bathroom. I finished up and walked back to my bedroom. As I walked in, I stopped dead in my tracks, as I saw the apparition of a little boy standing at the foot of my bed. He looked to have been 7 or 8 years old and was wearing very old clothing, a button-up short-sleeved shirt with suspender shorts and lace-up boots. You could compare it to something a child would have worn in the early 1900s. This child was incorporeal. He was a grayish-blue color, and you could see the wall he was standing in front of right through him. I made eye contact with the little boy. He looked right at me, right in my eyes. I couldn't leave the room, and I couldn't make a sound or cry for help. It was like he was drawing me closer to him. I finally gathered enough courage to jump into my bed, all the while holding eye contact with the little ghost boy. I quickly took cover under my blankets and, by some miracle, fell asleep. The next morning I told my mom about the encounter. She came into my room and examined the area, simply trying to find a logical explanation for what I saw. There was just no explanation other than a legitimate ghost encounter. The activity didn't stop after that. I had many weird experiences in that house, but I never saw him again. We dubbed our ghost Little Boy Blue, and we still talk about him from time to time. I just wish I knew who he was and if I could have helped him in some way. Number 4. 24 hours of activity. Posted by Reddit user FayastyFeet70. Quotes. On Wednesday of last week, there were some strange and non-explainable things happen over a 24-hour period at my home. I live in the middle of nowhere in Canada with my adult son and my partner, who is here visiting. My neighbors are not close to my house, nor can anyone other than a wild animal walk around my house easily because we have so much snow. My house isn't old either. I think it was built around the 50s and only had one other owner apart from me, and she died in a nursing home not here in the house. I'm really sensitive to paranormal activity and always have been, but up to now, I've had zero feeling of anything at all in this house. So it started with one of our cats. He sat staring at the ceiling with massive pupils and growling at nothing. All his hair was on end, and this went on for ages till my son picked him up and then he settled down. We thought nothing of it other than the cat was just being weird. Later on, my 2 dogs were barking at nothing. And also in a spot in the house where they don't normally bark. My partner went to look and he said he swore he saw someone looking in the window. Again, this is impossible because firstly you'd have to be on ladders to look in that window, and secondly the snow is far too deep. It took ages to settle them down, but again we thought maybe it was just a reflection and that they had heard an animal or something. Around the same time we were sat on the sofa watching TV, and I distinctly felt someone pat me hard on my head. I thought it was a cat because he does stupid things like that, but no, he was sat on my partner's lap. I got really angry and thought someone was pranking me, but there was no one around. And I still never thought anything weird was going on till the next couple of things happened. Later that evening my partner and I were in bed chatting and on our phones playing games with the sound down, when all of a sudden we both heard 2 people shouting. Almost like they were in the room next door. It was distinctly 2 people arguing, and it only lasted a few seconds. We looked at each other in shock, and again my partner went to take a look. The dogs were fast asleep and my son was in bed. And again, we don't have close neighbors, and it was -30 outside and 11.30 at night, so nobody was around. We couldn't at all explain this one. And by now I'm a little in itch. The last experience I had was in the middle of the night. I went to the toilet, and as I'm walking back to bed, something pressed one piano key, which honestly made my heart race, and I stopped in my tracks. I turned around hoping again it was a cat, but no, he was fast asleep on the sofa with both the dogs. Nothing has happened since, and I have no idea why we would only have activity like this for a short amount of time. Number 5. Haunted Attic Corner. Posted by Reddit user ElvinAstronaut96. Quotes. Growing up, I had several weird experiences in my parents' house in Orange, Virginia. Where we lived was a few miles away from a Civil War battlefield, which may explain some of it, but the entity that lived in my room was an entirely different story. I have seen ghosts before, a UFO, and some other strange things, but this one was the most constant. My bedroom was the attic, probably close to a 500 square foot room that was oddly shaped and had a stairwell leading downstairs. To the left of the stairwell was the main bedroom area, and to the right was a small and unsettling alcove. The attic was fully furnished and had some small attic doors along the walls, which were creepy on their own, but that's an entirely different story. The alcove had a small window, maybe about 3 feet tall and 2 feet wide, if that. To the right of the window was an access door to the attic fan, underneath was a bookshelf, and to the left was one of those storage doors. Now to the left was always a little darker lighting-wise for no real reason. Even when I had a black light glowfish tank there. It was the corner right in front of the door. From my bed on the left side of the room, I could clearly see this alcove, and it was maybe 20 to 30 feet away. Most nights when I went to sleep, I would feel a weighty presence emanating from that corner. When my back was to it, I would feel heavily that something was staring at me. In the shadows, I could not make out a figure, but the feel of that gaze would send shivers down my neck and spine and prickle my skin. It never bothered me much beyond that. I think it liked me better than the previous inhabitant of the room, my older sister. She has told me stories of things being displaced and weird feelings as well. One stands out in my mind. Shortly before she moved out, her best friend came to live with us. My sister had the room set up similar to how I did, except you couldn't see the alcove from her bed. On this particular day, her friend had her suitcases stacked underneath the window. Her and my sister were talking and writing a story together when all of a sudden, bam, her top, full suitcase was hurled from underneath the window and hit the bed. Mind you, this is 20 to 30 feet away, it's not like it just casually fell. There were some other experiences my sister had that my mom told her not to tell me and my younger brother. My mother always dismissed these claims, either she was in denial or whatever it was didn't affect her. I kept feeling this particular presence until I finally permanently moved out. My first night in this room, I saw a sort of apparition of it. It looked like a small red fox and came from next to the closet door, which was on the other side of the stairs. The fox didn't come from just anywhere. I saw it appear as if it were walking from that corner. I was young, maybe 13 to 14 at the time, and ran downstairs and told my parents what I saw. They sort of laughed at me at first, then got offended when I suggested it was supernatural. So I kind of told myself I was imagining things and went back up to bed. Never saw the fox afterwards. When I was in college, I would go home sometimes on breaks and feel the presence strongly at nighttime after I turned the lights out. I remember once I was home alone and was downstairs with the door to my room shut and all the pets in front of me when I heard heavy footsteps coming from above me right where the alcove would be. My sister had similar experiences, but it was more aggressive with her. The last time I was at that house was when it was going into foreclosure since my mother could no longer afford the mortgage. I got the rest of my stuff out and took the essentials with me. I was there with 2 friends of mine who were helping me, and for the first time in my whole life, the presence was not there. It had seemingly vanished since no one had been inhabiting the room. I haven't been back since. The presence still haunts my memory, and even now I can vividly remember the feel of its gaze upon me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.